Kemi is going for Prime Minister, so please get out of our way. If you're Black British looking for reparation, go and repair yourself, or Kemi is not the one for you. If you're Black British fighting systemic injustice, Kemi is not the one for you. Get out of our way. I beg, Kemi only has one message for all you Black British people. I'm unavailable. Them know they see me. I'm unavailable. Them know they see me.
Oh, so fabulous.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel once again. It's your girl Dumebilea. If this is your first time coming across my channel, you're welcome. I do hope you decide to subscribe, and if you are a returning subscriber, you guys know that I love you. Thanks for stopping by once again. You're welcome back. So as you guys already saw in the intro, we're talking about somebody who we have spoken about on this channel before, because for some reason there always seems to be something new to talk about. But anyway, before I get into today's video, I want to introduce you to our sponsor, Lemfi. Lemfi is a cross-border payment platform which allows you send money from the US to your loved ones back home in Nigeria within minutes. Now, even I have received money from relatives via Lemfi, and it was hitch-free. They have competitive rates and zero transaction fee. Lemfi is giving you an opportunity to get $20 cash back on your first transfer of $100 and above. All you need to do is download the app and use my referral code DUMEBILEA. Once you make a transfer above $100, you're going to get $20 cash back. Just like that. Now, that is not all. Lemfi is currently hosting a giveaway to appreciate their users. And how can you enter for this giveaway? You just need to download and use the app. Or if you are an already existing user, you need to make a transfer worth $200 and above to qualify. And you stand to win amazing gifts like an iPhone 15, smartwatches, even a $500 flight credit. That's just a few. They have many other prizes to win in this giveaway. And the giveaway is on up until October, so you can take advantage of that. Don't forget to use my referral code Dumebilea when using Lemfi. So thank you once again to Lemfi for sponsoring this video, and also thank you guys for supporting this channel, because all of this is possible through your support. Thank you once again. So now to get over to today's video, Auntie KEMI BADENOCH needs no introductions. I call her Auntie because I'm Nigerian and she's old enough to be auntie, right? But anyways, she is a politician in the UK who was born in the UK but brought back to Nigeria, where she spent her childhood up until the age of 16, when she went back to the UK. So obviously she's a migrant to the UK, but she's now a politician who I believe is currently vying for the post of Prime Minister. Now, if the circumstance was different, we would have been very proud of her as Nigerians. But the fact that she has now become more popular for denigrating her home country, her country of origin, Nigeria, for, I don't know why she does it. A lot of people have said it's because she wants to get the approval of palm-colored people. And it kind of looks like it, you know, it almost looks like at every opportunity she has something to say. And this time around, she has said some certain things that has caused an uproar. Let's just hear what she has to say.
There were some headlines over the weekend that seem to suggest you no longer identify as being Nigerian. Of course, you were born in this country, you spent your childhood in Nigeria. Were those headlines accurately reflecting what you were saying? What's your sort of status in terms of how you identify British, Nigerian, all the rest of it?
Well, I think that the BBC certainly wrote that headline. It wasn't quite what I said, but it is true. My main identity is as British. That is what I see myself as. Nigeria is a nationality. It's not an ethnicity. There's no such language as Nigerian. There are lots of different ethnic groups there. And I think that as a politician in this country, we need to be very focused on what is happening here, not what's happening elsewhere. And every day, I see loads of Labour MPs in particular talking about every other country except the UK. If you come to this country, you need to be very focused on making sure that you integrate. And if you're a politician, you need to be 100% focused on British issues. And that's basically what I was saying.
As a matter of fact, Auntie KEMI, what is going on with the braids? Auntie KEMI with the braids. Oh my God. Okay. I wouldn't say more than that. But I think she's kind of contradicting herself because she's saying, as a British politician, you should focus on what is happening in Britain. But she kind of always does the opposite of that. She's always bringing up things that are happening in Nigeria or things that happened in Nigeria when she lived in Nigeria, and it's always negative. So I wish you can take your own advice, Auntie Kemi. Then talking about how she doesn't claim her Nigerian identity anymore. It's not new. She has said something like that before, that she claims her tribe, her ethnicity, which is Yoruba, because Nigeria includes some other ethnicities that she thinks are problematic. Let me use that word. And she doesn't want to associate with people from that ethnicity. So she would just claim Yoruba. So this is not new news. As far as I'm concerned, this is recycled. I'm not shocked by that. Let's play the next video.
I went to a secondary school. It was called a federal government girls' school in a place called Shagamu.
Listen, she said girls' school. That piece of information is important.
And that was like being in prison. When I tell the stories about using a machete and having, because I know lawnmowers, that's the place that I'm talking about, having to fetch buckets of water. And that was the first time that I was away from home, away from my family. And I wasn't just looking at...
This is a boarding school?
Yes, it's a federal boarding school. And it was very...
You shared a dormitory with other girls?
We're about 150, I think. 20 to 30 in a room, and there were, 6 rooms.
And so the machete is for cutting the grass?
Yes, cutting the grass.
Explain why were you cutting the grass?
Well, because who else is going to cut the grass? It's just, it's the
grass grows and you have
exactly. They're not, this is a federal school where this is the old grammar school system sort of fading out, and everyone who passed an exam and got a certain score got to go to a federal school, and this was more socialism. So they sprinkled people around. They didn't want one school getting all the best results. They would mix people about, so you could end up getting sent thousands of miles away to a boarding school, at the extreme end of the country. So I was lucky. I didn't get sent too far away, but I was very far from home. I'd never been away from home before, and it was like Lord of the Flies. The students were in control. We needed to look after the school ground, so using a machete, having to clean toilets with no running water. I'm not going to go into the description of that, but it is very, very, very grotty.
I don't know, it kind of feels like she's painting the worst picture of this whole thing. Yeah, kids were given chores as part of, sanitation. You fetch water, you cut grass. The cutting grass part, it might be part of sanitation, or it might even be as a punishment. Yeah, it happened. As a matter of fact, I used to be a teacher in a secondary school as of 2011 to 2014. I taught biology. I'm kind of smart. But that's by the way. So I taught in a boarding school. So this actually happens. But for her to compare it to a prison, I guess maybe it's in comparison to the life she's living in Britain now, I guess.
I wasn't just the SWAT in the class. I was the person who would say that person is copying notes from the other person. I was the tattletale in the class, like getting people into trouble.
In my opinion, this was the most embarrassing video of all the three of them, because our Auntie Kemi is trying to talk about how she has always been one for truth and honesty. Right from when she was a child back in Nigeria, how she was the tattletale of the class. Tattletale, as far as I'm concerned, is Palm Color's people's way of saying snitch.
Because even then I hated cheating, because there I was, I wanted to be first in the class, and I've done all the work, and then there's some people who are copying notes and saying, why should they get away with it? And so I'd raise up my hand. I remember there was this extraordinary day. I was in, I must have been about 14 or 15, and I said, he's cheating. I stood up in the middle of the exam, and I stood up and said, he's cheating, he's the one that's doing it. And that boy ended up getting expelled. And I didn't get praised for it. And I was a relatively popular kid at school.
So in the middle of an exam, you just stand up and interrupt everybody and say, he's cheating, expecting to be praised for getting your classmate expelled.
And he said, why did you do that? Why would you do that? And I said, because he was doing the wrong thing. And someone said, you don't belong here. That you don't know how to behave, you don't belong here. And I've heard that all my life. You don't follow the rules, you don't do what you're supposed to, you're always sticking your head above the parapet, you're too direct, you tell the truth when you don't need to tell the truth, when you should pipe down. And I didn't belong there.
Hang on a second. So you're 14 years old, and in the middle of an exam, 14 or 15, you see a boy cheating, in the middle of an exam, in the middle of an exam hall, you stand up and you snitch on this kid who's cheating, who ends up getting expelled.
Yes.
No wonder you're so unpopular back at school. You sound really annoying.
I was, do you know what? The people who did that sort of thing hated it. But someone did say to me...
It was the right thing to do.
Yeah, they're like, you were the only person who'd ever have the guts to do that.
See how she's smiling, like she's so proud. I've always been a snitch. Ooh, and even the interviewer was shocked because... So now, a lot of people had a lot to say, and I think... I'm not sure all these things she's doing is bringing the desired result, because it's making you less relatable, less likable to a lot of people. Of course, there's some people who like this part of her, you know, but notice how she said someone told her, you don't belong here, you tell the truth, you do this, you do that. So basically, the Nigerians are telling her she doesn't belong there because she's too honest. So what is she trying to insinuate? That I don't belong in Nigeria, I don't even fit in because I'm too honest. I'm too much of a truth teller. So I will fit in more with you guys because I'm honest. Let's just play some of the replies.
KEMI BADENOCH has confessed to being a snitch when she was at school. This is a story on page 3 of the Telegraph. What do you make of this?
Whoever is advising her hates her. And I think this whole relatability tour is going very, very, very badly.
Just have a listen to this for a second. KEMI BADENOCH making this admission to BBC's Emil Rajan. Have a listen.
I wasn't just the SWAT in the class. I was the person who would say, that person is copying notes from the other...
Of course you didn't get praised for it. Esther, you started by saying you think the person who is advising her...
Hates her. They hate her. This relatability tour is going very, very badly. Every headline I've seen about Kemi in the last week or so has been about something to do with not feeling Nigerian, or this story where she's basically a grass, which I don't care which part of the world you're from, nobody likes grasses.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's just... why is this necessary? Just stick to the politics.
Yeah, can I just say, whilst that was going on, Jonathan Hyde audibly let out a gasp.
KEMI BADENOCH sounds like a 45-year-old spoiled brat complaining about doing chores at school. Chores that everybody else had to do.
Now, I need to introduce Dr. Shola Mushogbamimu, because she needs the accolades. I respect this woman because she is very pro-black. She is very vocal and outspoken, a proud Nigerian woman. She's British as well. And she calls out the BS, not just when it is from KEMI BADENOCH, but other people as well that want to be anti-black. You know, she's very vocal. So I needed to introduce her. She needs her own special introductions. Now let's continue.
Like she has PTSD from doing chores. This is what she calls hardship. I believe the school she's talking about is Federal Government Girls College Shagamu, which alongside Queen's College in Lagos were two of the most sought after federal government colleges for girls in Nigeria at the time, especially in the 80s and 90s. And federal government colleges, right, they're levelers because you will find children from all walks of life there. It didn't matter if your father was a minister, your parent is a street hawker or a farmer or a doctor, irrelevant. You will all do chores at school. Now, I went to Federal Government Girls College too. Mine was in Abuja and I was only there for a year. So I'm listening to her and I'm thinking, I was doing all these things too. What's the biggie? Why are you presenting this as something traumatizing and hardship? Now, don't get me wrong. I know that boarding school is probably not appropriate for some children. And as for some children, boarding school can be harder. But that's not what is happening here. She's literally presenting herself as a PTS victim of doing chores. And she's blaming Nigeria for it. I spoke to two of my friends who went to Shagamu, one of whom was actually in the same year and shared the same dormitory with KEMI. She remembers KEMI quite well. And both of them are flabbergasted. Their experiences of FGGC Shagamu is as different as night is from day from KEMI's testimony. They're like, what the hell is she talking about? They literally said, we had running water. We did chores. We cleaned the communal areas. We cleaned our dormitories. You know, we all had set things to do. And yes, we would cut the grass near our dormitories or near our class buildings. But the school had tractors operated by adults to cut fields of grass. So what is she talking about? And no, nobody was giving her a machete. You use cutlass to cut grass. And why would anybody give her a lawnmower? Why would they give students lawnmowers? Use your brain. And so what if she clean toilets? Don't you all clean your own toilets at home? Aren't you all cutting the grass of your lawns and your gardens and your allotments? Not everybody can afford a gardener. So what is wrong with students in a boarding school being responsible for the lawns, their dormitory and class buildings? I would have thought, oh my God, that's building character and teaching life skills. Kemi compares FGGC Shagamu to a prison, like she's been in prison before, because, you know, that would explain a lot. Maybe she was locked up in Kirikiri prison and she's got crow on the brain. So many of the women who went to FGGC Shagamu will be found today in leading industries across Nigeria, Africa, Europe, the States, name it. You know Nigerians know they carry last. And just in 2023, the students at FGGC Shagamu built their first humanoid robot. And this is school KEMI BADENOCH is denigrating so she can present herself as a victim of hardship to white British people. The tenacity.
And I realize that some of the things KEMI BADENOCH are saying are true, but she tries to paint them in an extremely negative light. Like, yes, students in boarding school do chores. You know, I said I was a teacher, so I saw these kids do chores, but they are not doing it as a punishment or to make you feel like a prisoner or you being maltreated. They are doing it as a part of life. Even if you were not in a boarding school and you were home, you would do chores. So you're in the boarding school, you're doing chores, and it's usually on a rotation. Maybe so students from so class are going to do it on Mondays. So students from so class are going to do it on Tuesdays. It goes round, and you're not being maltreated. In the school where I worked as well, it was also a federal school, by the way. The students did all these chores. The students also, they were also assisting even cooking the food that everybody was going to eat. They made sure that children participated in different kinds of chores. That is how you build a well-rounded human being. Do you want to send your child to boarding school and then at the end of the 6 years they spend in that secondary school, they come out not knowing how to do anything? Miss Kemi could have spun this thing as a story of how she built resilience, the spirit of hard working, spirit of community, you know, to show that, yes, I've struggled and I overcame, you know, not like, oh, I'm so traumatized, PTSD. I don't even want to describe how it was fetching water. We didn't have running water and washing toilets, and it was a prison. You know, you could have spun it in the positive way, saying, oh, this was how I built character because I did this right from a young age. I've known how to roll up my sleeves and do what I need to do. Like another situation where she painted things in the extreme was one of those other videos where I saw her talking about how when they were in Nigeria, the country was so unsafe, like at night they are hearing gunshots or whatever, and they don't know if they were going to make it through the night. And I'm like, that is such an extreme situation. Extreme, especially during the time when Miss Kemi lived here in Nigeria, because that was several years ago when she was still younger, right? And it was much more safe and coordinated then compared to what we're seeing now. I'm not invalidating her experience or how, in quotes, it might be traumatizing, but why do you always have to go to the extreme to make Nigeria look extremely bad? There's no single good thing that ever came from Nigeria, and that is what is pissing a lot of Nigerians off, to the point that Nigerians are in the comment section saying, just leave us alone, leave us out of your mouth. We know Nigeria is not perfect, but you should not be building your political career at the expense of Nigeria that you do not claim.
I am definitely an Essex girl. That is a fact.
Why did you do that? Why would you do that? And I said, because he was doing the wrong thing. And someone said, you don't belong here, that you don't know how to behave, you don't belong here.
She's trying to prove her Britishness and show that it's an exclusive Britishness, one that has not been diluted or tainted by the country where she grew up, and trying to show that her Britishness is not limited to her passport or her life after she was 16 when she moved to the UK, but that even when she was in Nigeria, she was like a fish out of water. And so she has to prove that her values while she was in Nigeria were still British values. And so her being in Nigeria was merely as a spectator of wrong norms, of broken systems, of insecurity, of socialism. Those are things that she continuously talks about, to show that she was just an observer and not a part of this system. So every time she talks about Nigeria, she has to create that distance between herself and the country. And that's why on that recent podcast she was on, she spoke about not identifying as a Nigerian. But all of this cannot be taken out of the context in which, at the beginning of her political career, she campaigned as a British Nigerian. Nigerians in Britain were part of the groups she reached out to, and she called herself...
Just imagine the shock those Nigerian British people are experiencing. Shockwave after shockwave after shockwave. Like, oh, we supported you. But now she's distancing herself. She don't claim you. She doesn't claim Nigeria. Sorry.
of a Nigerian. It was convenient then, it's not convenient now, so she has to drop that Nigerianness and portray herself as exclusively British.
Just yesterday, I said that KEMI BADENOCH is on a humiliation tour. KEMI has not seemed to realise that they are making fun of her. But a new BBC interview has just dropped. And I'm telling you guys, she is on a humiliation tour. Whether she knows it or not, yeah, she's on a humiliation tour. Watch this.
I wasn't just the SWAT in the class. I was the person who would say that person is copying notes from the other person. I was the tattletale in the class, like getting people into trouble.
She said she wasn't just a SWAT, as in the word SWAT isn't a powerful enough word for what she was.
Because even then I hated cheating, because there I was, I wanted to be first in the class, and I've done all the work, and then there's some people who are copying notes and so why should they get away with it?
She is trying to sell the British public an idea of decency and humility, but this is never ever going to work. And it actually says a lot about how her mind works, this interview. Firstly, there is no faction of British society, irrespective of region, irrespective of class or race, who like snitches. In fact, we're pretty consistent across the board about the fact that we don't like that kind of behaviour.
And so I'd raise up my hand. I remember there was this extraordinary day. I was in, I must have been about 14 or 15. And I said, he's cheating. I stood up in the middle of the exam and I stood up and said, he's cheating. He's the one that's doing it. And that boy ended up getting expelled.
For all of Britain's tales about respectability, Britain does not like snitches. But she's trying to sell the idea of this extreme level of decency to the British people. Why on earth does she think that they would be receptive to that? Why would anyone be receptive to this?
And I didn't get praised for it. And I was a relatively popular kid at school. And he said, why did you do that? Why would you do that? And I said, because he was doing the wrong thing.
She said he got expelled and she didn't get praised for it. Even to this day, she's holding on to the fact she didn't get praised for someone else getting kicked out of school. Oh my God. But the worst part is she's tried to spin it to her credit, saying that she's heard all of her life that she doesn't belong somewhere. But the thing is, her core audience believe that she doesn't belong here, and they don't like snitches. The combination of the two is surely going to be deadly. Who on earth is in charge of this woman's PR?
And someone said, you don't belong here, that you don't know how to behave, you don't belong here. And I've heard that all my life. You don't follow the rules, you don't do what you're supposed to, you're always sticking your head above the parapet, you're too direct, you tell the truth when you don't need to tell the truth, when you should pipe down. And I didn't belong there.
Hang on a second.
But more importantly as well, it implies that Nigeria and Nigerians are dishonest and that she didn't belong in Nigeria because she's an honest person, because she has integrity. Instead, she belongs here. And even Amal, even he's like, does she know what she's saying? Like, can she read the room?
And I didn't belong there.
Hang on a second. So you're 14 years old and in the middle of an exam.
14
or 15, you see a boy cheating in the middle of an exam, in the middle of an exam hall, you stand up and you snitch on this kid who's cheating, who ends up getting expelled.
Yes.
He has to clarify in disbelief.
You stand up and you snitch on this kid who's cheating, who ends up getting expelled.
Yes.
No wonder you're so unpopular back at school. You sound really annoying.
I was.
What the fuck?
Guys, let's watch this video and debunk this set of new lies that KEMI BADENOCH just dropped.
I wasn't just the SWAT in the class. I was the person who would say that person is copying notes from the other person. I was the tattletale in the class, like getting people into trouble. Because even then I hated cheating, because there I was, I wanted to be first in the class, and I've done all the work. And then there's some people who are copying notes and so why should they get away with it? And so I'd raise up my hand. I remember there was this extraordinary day. I was in, I must have been about 14 or 15. And I said, he's cheating. I stood up in the middle of the exam and I stood up and said, he's cheating. He's the one that's
You stand.
While I don't have a problem with whatever she did, she snitched on somebody, that's my problem. My problem is, this is, talking about the school she attended in Nigeria, this is his video.
I went to a secondary school, it was called a federal government girls' school in a place called Shagamu. And that was like being in prison. When I tell the stories about using a machete...
You guys listen, she said she went to an all-girls college, federal government girls' college in Shagamu. But she's saying that she got a guy, a male student, expelled, 14 years old male student. Like, this, it does not add up. She's just a manipulator. She go dey cook new life every day by day. That UK Prime Minister, she no go smell lamb. She will not smell that seed. I don't understand why she's just throwing Nigeria under the bus at every given moment she gets.
You know, I told you guys to pay attention to the fact that she said she went to a girls' school, but you exposed a boy for cheating and he got expelled. Like, how many schools did you go to? Do you see that the stories are not adding up?
KEMI BADENOCH, you cannot be more British than the British people. You cannot be whiter than a white man. Let me tell you something. I do not care if you associate with Nigerians, if you claim to be a Nigerian, I don't even care. It has no significance whatsoever to Nigeria's economy. It has no significance whatsoever to anything. So stop it. If you want to trend, you will mention Nigeria. Do your campaigns, do whatever you want to do without mentioning Nigeria's name. We don't also want you as a Nigerian. Remain British. Even the British people don't even want you. When I saw the post, her comment section was horrendous. Everybody is saying, you want to come as Prime Minister of the UK to fight immigration while you are an immigrant yourself. Make it make sense to me. You are fighting your origin. Because of what? To become a British? Is it possible for you to be more British than a British person? What exactly is your point? What if you like associate with Nigerians? So if you like, don't associate. That is your business. Please keep it to yourself. If you don't associate with Nigerians, stop mentioning Nigeria as a whole. Want to come in and fight immigration so bad, and you are an immigrant yourself, please take a chill pill, go and rest, go and sleep. Let's see if you actually become a British Prime Minister. Let us see if you can.
So that's just, I mean, anytime I come across a KEMI, sincerely, if not that I'm doing this for the sake of this video, I've gotten up to here with the videos and the things that she says, because at some point I'm like, what is she going to say this time? Okay, what is she going to say this time? There's always something, and it has gotten to the point that she's also being clowned. She has started being clowned by the very people that she's trying to appeal to, the very people that she's trying to pander to. And no matter how much you disassociate from Nigeria and try to pander to these people, you will always be seen as what? A black African monkey. You will always be seen as a Nigerian woman. And I really do hope, I know contrary to what a lot of people think, I really do hope she wins this prime minister so that she can at least let all this pandering not be in vain. Because after all this, Nigerians will not claim her. I don't even know if she's ever going to be welcome, which she probably doesn't care. She probably is not going to step foot in Nigeria anymore after all of this. And I'm wondering what her family, her Nigerian family, actually think, how they feel, how hard they really hustled and everything to be able to send her there for her to have the better life. And then she goes there and does all of it. Because when you're spitting on Nigerians, you're spitting on your family as well. Because I mean, your parents are Nigerians, your grandparents, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, they are Nigerians. Your children are half Nigerians, whether you like it or not. Anyways, you guys just let me know what you think in the comment section. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.